I moved to New Mexico a few months ago. I thought it would be a fresh start. As a freelance photographer, I wanted to capture the vibrant landscapes and culture. I rented an old Adobe house on the town's outskirts. The old building had charm. I remembered feeling excited unpacking my gear, dreaming of the beautiful photos I'd take. But soon, I couldn't shake off the unsettling things that started happening. On my second night, I heard a soft tapping on the window. I thought it was just the wind, or maybe a branch, but there were no trees nearby. I shrugged it off and tried to go back to sleep. A week passed, and the tapping continued, growing louder each night. It felt almost rhythmic. My heart raced every time it started. I'd pull the curtain back, but all I could see was darkness. Then I discovered small footprints in the sand outside my door. They led right up to the house, but disappeared when I looked again. I felt a chill run through me. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe my mind was just playing tricks. One evening I was editing photos when I noticed flickers of shadows outside my window. They moved quickly, and when I tried to look closer, the yard was empty. My stomach knotted up. Maybe I was just tired and not paying attention. But deep down, I felt there was something wrong. The next night, I sat on the porch. I wanted to hear silence, but it didn't come. The tapping returned, more insistent this time. I jumped up and glanced through the glass. My breath caught. I thought I saw a figure standing just beyond the light. It felt wrong, and I whispered to myself, "It's just the wind." Deep down, I knew I wasn't convincing myself. Then there was the night when I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The tapping turned into banging, a forceful noise that made me jolt upright. My heart pounded as I rushed to the window. Outside, those shadows darted again, disappearing just as I turned. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I began to wonder if I was losing my mind. But each incident felt real. They stayed with me, leaving me feeling like I was being watched. There were moments I thought I might have seen something, but I could never be sure. Then one night, it happened again. I turned to look, expecting something, but outside my window was just black, and still I knew someone, or something, was there. The feeling gripped me tight. I wanted answers, but they eluded me. I felt trapped in that old Adobe house, like it had a secret it wouldn't share. I often found myself staring into the darkness, waiting for what would happen next. What was happening to me? I still don't know, but the questions haunt me. The next day, I decided I needed to confront the fear gnawing at me. Ignoring it wouldn't make it go away. I grabbed my camera and headed outside, hoping to find something that would shed light on the strange happenings. The bright sun felt warm against my skin, a stark contrast to the chill that had settled in my home.
I walked around the Adobe, carefully examining the ground for more footprints or signs of movement. I turned over some rocks and pushed through the soft sand, but nothing stood out. Frustrated, I took a few photos of the landscape, trying to channel my nerves into something productive. The mountains loomed in the distance, majestic yet eerily quiet. As I circled back around to the front, something caught my eye. A small, charred piece of wood lay just beside my door. I bent down, examining it closely. It looked old, like it had been burned a long time ago. I couldn't remember seeing it before, and my pulse quickened. I picked it up, noticing strange markings carved into its surface. I couldn't quite make out what they meant, but they felt wrong. My instinct told me to leave it alone, but I took a photo anyway. I thought maybe I could research it later. As I stood straight, a sudden noise made me jump. A soft whisper floated on the breeze, chilling me to my core. I strained to feel it, but it was gone as quickly as it came. The hairs on my arms stood on end. Had I imagined it? I glanced around, but the only other noise was the fluttering of leaves. In a desperate attempt to find answers, I decided to talk to the neighbors. There was one house down the road that seemed inviting enough. I walked over, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached, I felt a sense of unease wash over me, but I pushed through it. I knocked on the door and waited, trying to shake the feeling that I was being watched. After a moment, an older woman opened the door. She peered at me with sharp, curious eyes. I introduced myself and explained my situation. Her expression shifted slightly, becoming more serious. "You're in that old Adobe, aren't you?" she said, her voice low. I nodded, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "You should be careful. Not everyone who lived there left on good terms." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. "What do you mean?" I pressed. "There were odd things that happened. People heard voices. Some even claimed to see things. I didn't want to believe it until I saw something myself. I felt my blood run cold. I needed more details, but before I could ask, she waved me away. "Stay clear of the house at night. You never know what might come out to play." I backed away slowly, her warning echoing in my mind. That night, I couldn't shake what she had said. I returned home, clutching the piece of wood tightly. I wondered if it had something to do with the whispers, the shadows, everything that had happened. I placed it on my kitchen table, determined to investigate it further. Then, just as I started to calm down, the lights flickered. I knew it wasn't a storm. The skies were clear. Then the familiar sound came. The tapping had returned, louder and more insistent. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I froze. I couldn't ignore this anymore. I had to face whatever was there. I braced myself and moved toward the sound, ready for whatever came next.
I stepped cautiously toward the source of the tapping, my heart racing with every step. The noise came from the back of the house, echoing eerily in the silence. I pushed open the door to the bedroom, half expecting to find someone standing there. Nothing. The room was dark, shadows stretching menacingly across the walls. I crept further inside, straining my ears to listen. The tapping paused for a moment, then resumed, this time accompanied by a faint scraping sound. It sounded like something dragging across the floor. My stomach turned. I never liked creepy crawlies, and the idea of anything lurking in my home chilled me to the bone. I aimed my camera flashlight into the corners of the room. Dust danced in the beam, but there was no sign of a living creature. I could feel the pulse in my throat, and my hands shook slightly. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. It felt stupid, but I needed to break the tension. Silence swallowed my words. I took a deep breath and moved toward the closet, which had been partially ajar since I moved in. I had avoided opening it, convinced it held only cobwebs and old clothes. But now curiosity gnawed at me. I reached for the handle, hesitating when a cold draft rippled across the room. Suddenly, the scraping returned, louder and more frantic. A chill rushed through me. I yanked the closet door open, bracing myself for whatever lay inside. Empty. I stepped back, my heart racing, trying to make sense of it all. And that's when I saw it. The charred piece of wood I had left on the kitchen table. It was now lying at my feet. I hadn't moved it. Fear surged through me. How did it get here? I looked around frantically, searching for an explanation. The shadows around me seemed to deepen, as if they were alive and watching. I gathered my courage and bent down to pick it up. As my fingers brushed against the surface, the temperature in the room dropped. A strong gust of wind whipped through the room, rattling the window. I stumbled back, skidding on the wooden floor. Everything turned dark for a second, swallowed by a thick blackness, and then I felt it, a presence. "Leave," a voice whispered in my ear, soft yet menacing. I couldn't make sense of it. I just knew I had to get out. Panic clawed its way up my throat as I bolted for the door. I shoved it open and fled down the hallway, racing for the front door. But just as I reached for the handle, it slammed shut with a deafening bang. I turned around, my breath coming in short gasps. I was trapped. My mind raced, scrambling for a solution. The whispers turned into a cacophony of hisses, pulling me toward the flickering lights in the living room. There had to be a way to escape this madness. I remembered the neighbor's warning and how concerned she looked. Maybe that man knew something after all. Then I heard it again. "Leave," the voice boomed, this time filled with more urgency. I banged on the door with my fists, desperation taking hold.
I could feel the energy pulsating around me, the air thick with dread. I was losing my grip. I had to get out. I had to find a way to break free from whatever was holding me here. As I searched for a way out, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Something was stirring in the darkness, ready to confront me. I turned, heart pounding, as I faced the darkness creeping from the corners of the hall. The shadows swirled, coalescing into a shape. It was vague, but I could tell it was watching me. The air felt electric, like a storm was brewing, and I knew I had to act quickly. "Who are you?" I shouted, my voice wavering. The presence didn't respond, but the shadows shifted, almost as if they were seeking to wrap around me. I backed away, my pulse quickening. This was not just a ghost. It felt like something more, something alive and angry. The flickering lights in the living room pulsed with urgency, illuminating a path. I decided to risk it. Maybe I can find something to help, I thought, forcing my legs into motion. I sprinted toward the living room, desperate to escape the ominous shape that lingered behind me. The lights flickered violently as I stepped inside. The room was a chaotic mess, furniture strewn about as if a storm had swept through. But it was the mirror hanging above the fireplace that caught my eye. It shimmered strangely, reflecting not only the room, but also a glimpse of the entity lurking behind me. "What the hell?" I whispered, recoiling. The face in the mirror was twisted and hollow. It seemed to grin, eyes wide and dark, just as my own heart threatened to leap from my chest. The whispers returned, but now they were clearer, as if spoken directly into my mind. "Find it," they hissed. "Set it free!" "Set what free?" I yelled, frustration bubbling over. The glass shimmered again, and for a moment I thought I saw a hand reaching out, struggling to break through the surface. Panic coursed through me, and I stumbled back, looking for an escape. I was running out of time. The entity was angry, and I could feel its energy thrumming in the air. I had to find answers. I dashed to the kitchen, back to the only safe place I had known before all of this madness started. The charred piece of wood remained on the table, now radiating a faint glow. I picked it up, holding it like a lifeline. The moment it touched my skin, the energy shifted. A wave of heat surged through the room, resonating with the object. I closed my eyes, visions flooding my mind, flashes of another time, another person standing in this very house. I opened my eyes and realized the entity had gotten closer. The air crackled, and I could hear a low growl building. My thoughts raced. "This wood, it's a key!" I gasped, hoping my instinct was right. I had to confront it, to understand what connection I shared. "Show yourself!" I commanded, clutching the wood tightly. The shadows lunged forward in response, and a piercing scream erupted through the room.
The walls shook as images of the past began to unravel before me, revealing the truth, dread mixed with a desperate need to be freed. Suddenly, the mirror shattered into countless shards, each reflecting the chaos around me. My heart sank. I was standing on the edge of something far beyond my comprehension. Who or what had been trapped here, and why did I feel so tied to its fate? I knew I was about to uncover secrets I wasn't ready for. The shattered glass seemed to whisper a solution, but I had to act fast. Every second counted. As I turned back, something sharp grazed my arm. I gasped as I noticed the sharp, gleaming edges closing in. All the while, the voice still echoed in my mind. "Find it." The moment I felt the sharp edges slice against my skin, I instinctively dropped the piece of wood. It clattered to the floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence that engulfed the room. My heart raced as I turned to face the shadows, which now seemed to swirl chaotically. "Stop," I shouted, my voice trembling but defiant. I had no idea what I was up against, but panic was rapidly giving way to a strange resolve. The air around me felt dense, almost alive, as if charged with intention. Just then, something unexpected happened. I noticed a faint glimmer in the chaos, something almost human breaking through the darkness. I squinted, willing my eyes to focus. It was a small object, radiating a gentle light. Intrigued, I took a cautious step forward. That's when I saw it, a locket, half buried among the debris. I reached for it, my fingers brushing against its cool surface. As soon as I picked it up, the shadows hissed, and for a split second I felt a deep connection, as if the very essence of the locket intertwined with my being. "What are you?" I whispered, heart racing with dread and curiosity. I opened the locket carefully. Inside was a faded picture of a woman with dark hair, her eyes staring back at me, filled with sorrow. Alongside it was a piece of paper, yellowed with age. I pulled it out, my breathing shallow. The handwriting was shaky, but I could make out words. "I am trapped. Help me. The key is within reach. Find it before it's too late." Realization hit me like a jolt. The whispers I had heard, they weren't just commands, they were a plea. The entity that had haunted my home, the angry presence, was perhaps no longer just a threat. It was a soul yearning for freedom. With renewed purpose, I turned my focus back to the kitchen. The charred wood lay at my feet, but my mind raced through the message written in the locket. The key is within reach. I had to combine what I discovered with the wood. I could feel the energy growing stronger, a palpable force urging me to act, but time was running out. The growling from the shadows escalated, echoing in tandem with my rising anxiety. I set the locket beside the wood, hoping for a reaction. Suddenly, the chamber was engulfed in energy.
The walls reverberated as if the very foundation of the house was alive. Images flashed before me, images of the woman from the locket, trapped in anguish. "Is this what you want?" I cried out, feeling desperate. The shadows responded, twisting and writhing as if searching for what I held. My instincts screamed to keep moving. I could sense the boundary between this world and another thinning. A deep growl erupted from the darkness, and I could feel the energy building to a boiling point. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered out, leaving me in a void of shadows and uncertainty. Panic surged through me. "What's happening?" I thought. All that was left were the echoes of my own thoughts and the description of the woman, a connection I needed to explore further. Who was she, and how did this connect to the entity? I had to find answers before it was too late. I stood alone in the dark, the weight of silence pressing against me. My heart hammered as I tried to catch my breath. The shadows had swallowed the room, and an unsettling chill seeped into my bones. I felt the locket still clenched in my hand. The woman's sad eyes haunted me. "Think, there must be something," I whispered to myself, desperate for clarity. I remembered the words in the locket. The key is within reach. But what did that mean? I started to feel around the kitchen, in complete darkness, eyes squinting as if I could push the shadows away with my gaze. My fingers brushed against the counters, the coolness of the surface grounding me. I needed to find something that connected the locket to the wood. Then I heard it, a faint scratching noise. It came from nearby, almost hidden as if the darkness itself was daring me to acknowledge it. I froze, every muscle in my body tense. My instinct was to run, but something deep down told me to stand my ground. The scratching continued. It was rhythmic, almost as if it were a signal. Drawing a deep breath, I followed the sound. My feet moved cautiously, each step a negotiation between fear and determination. I clutched the locket tightly, as if it could fend off whatever lurked in the shadows. As I neared the back wall, the noise abruptly stopped, replaced by an unsettling stillness. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling in the silence. No answer. I leaned closer to the wall, the locket dangling from my fingers. I could feel a heat radiating from the old wood, almost like the house itself was alive and responding to my presence. Then I felt it, the jagged edge of something hidden beneath the wallpaper. My heart raced. I pulled at it, peeling back layers of faded paper, with every tug releasing a cloud of dust. As the last piece fell away, I uncovered a small iron key. I stared at the key, heart pounding. "Is this it?" I asked the shadows. The energy in the room shifted, pulling at me, urging me to take action. I turned to the locket, wondering if they were truly connected. This had to be the key the woman referred to.
Suddenly, a sharp laugh echoed through the room, a chilling sound that sliced through the darkness. The shadows writhed in response, coiling around me. My breath hitched. "No, no!" I stumbled back, gripping the locket and key tightly. It felt as though I had awakened something that should have stayed buried. The darkness thickened, a swirl of malevolent intent. I could almost hear whispers circling in my mind, frantic. Suddenly, a sharp laugh echoed through the room, a chilling sound that sliced through the darkness. The shadows writhed in response, coiling around me. My breath hitched. "No, no!" I stumbled back, gripping the locket and key tightly. It felt as though I had awakened something that should have stayed buried. The darkness thickened, a swirl of malevolent intent. I could almost hear whispers circling in my mind, frantic, desperate. "Help me!" That same voice, filled with urgency, clawed at my consciousness. I felt a surge of fear, but also determination. I had the key now. I had to unlock whatever was holding this woman captive. The shadows hissed, almost like they understood what I was about to do. But just as I began to approach the back door, I heard a loud crash from the living room. My heart dropped. Someone or something was in the house. Not again, I thought, panic threatening to take over. I clenched the key in the locket tighter. I couldn't back down now. I had to find out what awaited me beyond the door. But would I save her or unleash something worse? I took a shaky breath, my heart drumming wildly. The crash felt like the beginning of something I wasn't ready for. I hesitated for just a moment, glancing over my shoulder at the back door. I had the key, and with it, perhaps a chance to change everything. But I couldn't ignore that noise. I stepped cautiously into the living room, the shadows dark around me. The air felt thick, charged with an unseen force. Every creak of the floorboards beneath my feet sounded deafening.
The room was a tangled mess of furniture and flickering memories, all illuminated by the glow of a single streetlight filtering through the window. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely breaking the silence. I strained to hear any response, but the house seemed to hold its breath. The crash had come from the other side of the room, near the window. I edged forward, trying to peer through the darkness, anxiety creeping under my skin. Just then, a figure burst into view, skidding across the floor. I jumped back, heat surging through my veins, instinct screaming at me to run, but the figure went still. I squinted, trying to make sense of what I saw. It was a doll, an old rag doll with one eye missing, lying oddly at an angle. My heart calmed a fraction, but my confusion only deepened. Who would throw a doll like that? I bent down to pick it up. As soon as my fingers made contact with its tattered fabric, a low whisper echoed through my mind. "Help me." The voice was faint but unmistakable, laced with desperation. My heart skipped again, and I dropped the doll like it was burning hot. Then, out of the corner of my eye, something moved. I looked up, and my breath caught in my throat. A shadow flitted across the wall, too quick for my eyes to focus on. It slipped behind the old armchair in the corner, leaving me alone with a swell of dread.
I gripped the locket and key tighter, feeling their weight as though they could offer me strength. It was clear now. The woman's voice wasn't just a memory. She was here somewhere, trapped in this house beyond my sight. Her presence was urgent, and I felt a strange bond forming between us. "Where are you?" I whispered, as if the walls could respond. The dark shape darted out again, but this time it stopped, half revealed in the light. I squinted, fear gripping me once more. It was a small boy, his eyes wide, filled with an unsettling mix of fear and recognition. "You have to leave," he rasped, his voice trembling. "Why? What's happening?" I asked, the intensity of the moment sparking my frantic need for answers. Before he could answer, the room shifted. The shadows danced closer, almost eager, and the air grew heavy with a sudden chill. I could feel a presence coiling around us, watching. "We don't have much time," he urged, glancing around as if expecting something to pounce. "You have to find her, before it's too late." Then everything went black. The world shrank to nothing, and I lost feeling in my body. I was swallowed by an abyss, the chilling laughter of the shadows echoing like a sinister song. I blinked hard, my surroundings fading back into view. The living room was transformed. The light from the street lamp was gone, barely cutting through the thick blanket of darkness. The air smelled musty, and a chill crawled up my spine. What just happened? I forced myself to my feet. My limbs felt heavy and disoriented, but my heart raced with determination. I had to find that boy, the one who warned me. Maybe he was the key to everything. "Hello?" I called again, the word echoing into the void. Silence. The shadows seemed deeper now, eager and alive around me. I checked the corners of the room, expecting him to appear any second. Nothing. Just as I turned to search through the other rooms, a soft whimper snagged my attention. It was faint, almost drowned out by the eerie stillness. I moved toward the sound, my fear morphing into a sense of purpose. It echoed from the hallway leading to the back of the house. I reached the doorway and stopped short. The boy stood at the end of the hall, half lit by the flicker of a dying bulb overhead. "You're here," he breathed, relief washing over his wide eyes. "We need to hurry." "What do you mean? What's going on?" I stepped closer, my heart pounding in anticipation of his response. "There's something in here with us," he whispered. His gaze darted nervously to the shadows. "Then why didn't you stay back there?" I asked, my voice trembling. I felt the weight of responsibility, and with it, a fierce protectiveness toward him. "I thought you were going to leave like everyone else," he said. "But you can't leave now. We have to find her." I nodded, uneasy but resolute. "Okay, let's find her." The boy led me forward, taking careful steps, as if the floor itself was a threat. My pulse raced as I followed, scanning the walls and corners for movement. He stopped at a door slightly ajar. A pale light flickered from the other side. "She's in there," he urged, pressing closer. "What if it's a trick?" I asked, uncertainty gnawing at me. "It's not," he insisted, eyes piercing into mine. "She needs you." I reached for the handle, heartache and anticipation swirling inside me. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. It swung wide with a creak that broke the silence. The room was empty, save for an old rocking chair swaying gently,
as if someone had just risen from it. A delicate scarf hung from the back, familiar, yet strangely foreign. My breath hitched as I recognized it. It belonged to the woman from my dreams. "Where is she?" I whispered into the stillness. That's when I saw it. A faint outline began to materialize in the air, a figure struggling to shape itself before my eyes. Desperation tightened around my throat. I was so close. And then, just like that, the shadows closed in with a fierce howl, enveloping the light and the shape before me. "No!" I cried out, but it was too late. The room plunged into darkness again, the soft glow snuffed out, and the boy's terrified scream echoed in my ears. "Run!" he yelled, but fear locked my legs to the ground. The only thing I could do was to stand and wait for whatever came next. The darkness pressed around me, thick and suffocating. I couldn't see anything, not even the boy's outline. My breath quickened, and I strained to listen, trying to figure out what was happening. There was a rustling noise, like something skimming over the floor. Fear slithered through me, sending chills across my skin. "Where are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. I stepped forward, unintentionally stubbing my toe on the doorframe. A jolt of pain snapped me out of my paralysis, pushing me into action. "I'm coming." "Over here," his voice cut through the silence, slightly muffled but urgent. I shoveled toward it, sweeping my hands in front of me. Every stride felt like eternity, as if the shadows themselves were trying to pull me back. When I reached him, I found him pressed against the wall, trembling. "It's coming," he whispered. His breath hitched, and a wave of panic washed over him. "Who? What is it?" I asked, unable to hide the fear in my voice. I glanced back down the hallway, noticing a shift, something darker moving within the shadows. "I don't know," he cried, his eyes wide with terror. "I just feel it. It wants something." "Then we need to leave," I said, grasping his shoulder. "Now." But just as I turned to flee, an icy breeze swept through the hall, making the little hairs on my arms stand on end. A low growl rumbled from the depths of the darkness, rising in pitch until it reverberated in my bones. "Stay close," I urged, pulling the boy along as I stumbled backward toward the door. I felt the walls solidify against my back and pushed against it, my heart racing as I slipped into the pitch blackness. In the silence that followed, I could only hear our quick breaths and the soft creak of the house settling. Suddenly, the air tasted metallic and bitter, an omen of something looming just outside our fragile barrier. "We can't just stay here," I said, panic creeping back. "We have to find another way out." The boy nodded but didn't move. His eyes were fixated on something behind me. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. The shadow coalesced, twisting and turning like smoke, swirling in the shape of a figure with hollow eyes that bore into my soul. Then the shadow surged forward, lunging into the space between us. "Run!" I screamed, grabbing the boy's hand and bolting in the opposite direction. We dashed through the darkness, feeling the figure's presence close behind, as if the air itself were alive, reaching for us. "Where are we going?" he shouted, stumbling as we turned a corner. "Anywhere but here," I yelled back, determination coursing through me. The hallway stretched endless before us, and then I saw a flicker of light ahead. A door stood slightly ajar at the far end, the only promise of safety. "That way," I urged, gaining speed. As we raced toward it, I caught a glimpse of more shadows swirling in the corners, and a scream bubbled in my throat. "Keep going! Don't stop!" But just as we reached the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang. The sound echoed like a warning, reverberating in my chest. I reached for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. With every passing second, I felt the darkness tightening around us, the air heavy with something sinister. "Let's go back," the boy cried, terror seeping into his voice. But I had no intention of retreating now. I pressed my shoulder against the door, pushing with all my weight. It groaned and rattled, but wouldn't give. Anxiety clawed at my resolve as I heard a whisper, chilling and pointed, pierce the silence. "You shouldn't have come here." My heart dropped. There were more voices now, seeping from the walls, echoing back the same unnerving message. "What does it want?" I shouted into the abyss. "What does it want?" echoed the voices, like a mocking chant. A new surge of adrenaline coursed through me. We couldn't give in, couldn't be swallowed by the darkness. I turned to the boy, determination replacing my fear. There has to be another way. But then I heard it, footsteps approaching, firm and unyielding. I clenched my fists, ready for whatever came next. I wouldn't let it take us. Not now. The footsteps grew closer, echoing down the hall, and I gripped the boy's hand tightly. There was no turning back. "We need to find a way out, now," I said, searching for clues in the enveloping darkness. The boy nodded, and together we backed away from the door, every creak of the house sending tremors of dread through us.
Just then, a flicker of light flickered softly ahead, glowing dimly through another doorway across the hall. "Look!" he pointed, his voice steadying. There's another room. Maybe we can hide or find a way out there." The light seemed to beckon us. We dashed toward it, the air heavy around us, almost like it was alive, pushing against us. I could hear the whispers rising again, echoing our steps, but there was no time to ponder their meaning. As we reached the door, I pushed it open, revealing a small study, cluttered with ancient books and dust-covered furniture. The light flickered from a small lamp on the desk in the corner. "Check under the desk," I urged, still holding the boy's hand. He nodded, and without another word, he crawled beneath the table, searching. I scanned the room, straining to hear any further movements from outside. "Anything?" I whispered, leaning down to look at him. "I'm not sure," he stammered, fidgeting with old papers, "but there might be something here." Suddenly, the air grew colder, and I could hear the footsteps again, closer this time. Alarmed, I turned to the door, panic rising once more. The shadows around the room started gathering ominously at the threshold, coiling and swirling with intent. "Don't let it find us," I hissed. The boy reached out and tugged on a book, and it came free with an unsettling crack. "What is it?" I asked, confused. But he didn't reply. Instead, he opened the book, and a blinding light erupted from its pages, illuminating the room and flooding the shadows with brightness. "What did you do?" I gasped. "I don't know," he yelled back, squinting against the light, "but it feels right." As the shadows recoiled from the light, we both thought we saw a glimpse of a shadowy figure moving back, falling away from the desk and disappearing into the corners of the room. But before I could process what was happening, the book slipped from his fingers and fell to the ground. The light faded quickly, and we were swallowed by darkness again. I kicked the book away from us, but a rising growl curdled my blood, a monstrous sound that seemed to echo from every direction. "Get back," I shouted, and we huddled close as the shadows around us thickened, an almost tangible force burrowing toward us. Something stirred from the depths of the room, something that felt alive. "Leave," it hissed, echoing hauntingly through the darkness. "No, you can't have us," I shouted in defiance. With an instinct I didn't understand, I reached for the locket hanging around my neck. The metal felt warm beneath my fingertips. "Get out," it shrieked now, a cacophony of voices crashing in unison, and I held out the locket, unsure of what would happen. The shadows quivered at the sight. "Floris air," I whispered, as I had read in one of the books, the meaning of which eluded me. A burst of energy rose from the locket. Warmth enveloped the room. The shadows recoiled, twisting and turning like smoke. "What?" I knew I couldn't let fear take over. "Show yourself," I commanded, adrenaline rushing through me. The swirling darkness hesitated, and for a moment I thought I glimpsed the outline of a figure, frozen in pain and longing. It was clear now, a woman reaching out, her eyes filled with desperate longing. "Help me!" she screamed, her voice echoing within me. I stepped forward, heart pounding. I couldn't settle for fear. The moment I reached the threshold, the shadows surged toward me, whispering frantically. The boy grasped my arm, but I pushed forward, all the while holding the locket up high. Then the walls around us began to tremble. I could hear the whispers morphing into frantic pleas. "Help her!" they cried. With newfound courage, I thrust the locket forward, closer to the figure, and the shadows exploded outward, engulfing the air with anguish and fury. The ghostly presence writhed, and the shadows turned into a blinding light, illuminating everything around us. In a sudden rush, the pressure was released, and at that moment, the woman burst forth from the darkness, her spirit rising like vapor. But as quickly as she appeared, it was as if time fractured. A shadow shot out, tearing through the air like a torrent, wrapping around her. "No!" I shouted, desperate. The boy fell back, stunned by the rush of energy. I couldn't comprehend what was happening, only that I had to act. With one last breath, I stepped forward into the light, reaching towards the ghost. "Together!" I yelled to the boy, who still clung to my wrist in awe. The air around us surged once more, and the shadows screamed as they battled against the light that pushed them back. I focused everything I felt, a connection forged in desperation, understanding, and compassion. The shadows lashed out, trying to pull the woman back. She extended a hand toward me, pleading, "Help me." I grasped her hand, focused all my will, and cried out, "You are free!" With a final pulse of light, the energy shattered the remaining darkness, and the room erupted in a storm of brilliant light. I shielded my eyes, overwhelmed by the brilliance that tore through the darkness, blasting the entity back into the shadows. The screams drowned out, echoing like wails diffusing into oblivion. After what felt like an eternity, the silence returned. I blinked slowly, looking around. The boy was next to me, wide-eyed. The shadows had vanished. Everything felt calm, hushed,
as if a great weight had been lifted. I reached for the locket. It was warm, humming quietly, the remnants of energy within. "Did we?" I whispered. But before I could finish my thought, the boy broke the silence. "Is she gone?" I think so," I replied, uncertainty creeping back in. Part of me wished for closure, yet deep down I felt that lingering question. That connection to the past was stronger than the light we had just fought. His eyes sparked with understanding, but something behind me tugged in my soul.
I glanced back, not ready to leave what we had just encountered. The back door opened slightly. A gentle breeze wafted through. It felt like an invitation, a question left unspoken. I looked back at him, who watched me with a thoughtful gaze. "Are we safe?" he asked, the echoes of fear still resonating in his tone. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe it's never really over." We exchanged glances, minds racing with the possibilities, uncertain futures. Each step forward seemed heavy, yet liberating, a balance of light and shadow that could merge forever. The door creaked open as we stepped outside. The night lay spread before us, starry and filled with mystery. "Let's just go," I said softly, and together we stepped through the threshold, leaving the darkness behind, but carrying the questions forward.